Hello again, everybody. This is John and Glenn with BestPriceNutrition.com. Per some requests, we're going to be reviewing All-American EFX Karbolyn. It's also in a Labrada Nutrition carb product called Power Carb. So, we're talking about both of them today. So, what is it, Glenn?
Karbolyn is a carb. It's a carbohydrate. It's a higher molecular weight carb, meaning it's heavier. It comes from, or it's derived from potato, starch, and corn. What makes it different from other carbs is what's called a homopolysaccharide. So it's sort of one type of carb, but a bunch of them together.
Yeah,
similar type.
One monosaccharide. So, if it were glucose, for instance, it would be like a bunch of glucose together.
All bonded together, combined together. So that's what it is. You might have heard other carbs like waxy maize and things like that, and Vitargo claiming to be higher molecular weight carbs. That's the idea with this also. The purported effects of it is that they're saying that being that it's a higher molecular weight carb, it absorbs faster. They actually say on the bottle it absorbs 18.21% quicker than regular dextrose does. So if you want to look at dextrose versus this, their claim is that it does absorb faster. It was done by some research lab December 2009 to show that it did absorb faster.
So those are the purported effects, basically. So there's no sugar in it per se, but all carbs at some point are going to become sugar. And another, the homopolysaccharide would be like glycogen. That's another one stored that way. Now, okay, there's the studies and stuff. Here's the thing: in the real world, it's not often that somebody ingests just a given carbohydrate. So, sometimes like if somebody just goes and does like a blood glucose test, and they just fast and then they take in 75 grams of sugar or whatever the exact amount is. Okay, that's not very realistic in the real world because the reality is you're going to have other things in your gut. You're usually going to eat your carbohydrates with other macronutrients like protein or fat, which is going to seriously affect the glycemic index, which is an average rate at which a carbohydrate turns into blood sugar in isolation. The reality is that's not very common just because we said there's typically something in your gut, you usually taken with other fat or protein, which is going to seriously change the way a carbohydrate acts. Also there's a lot of misunderstanding too with sometimes with the role insulin plays in digestion. Protein also is pretty highly insulinogenic. So, that's something else to consider too. So if you're like, I need to get my insulin spike. If you're taking in carbs, you're going to get plenty of an insulin spike. So we wouldn't recommend just focusing on that because there's a lot of other variables at play. You have glucose transporters and other things that play a role in kind of metabolism.
Yeah. This is they say it quickly absorbs in bloodstream like a simple sugar, but without the typical spike or crash, causing your muscles run out of fuel.
So if you took it with fat or protein, that's not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the idea. Now, the thing is, it's like, we were just joking off camera. It was like, I forget what movie is that. You ever heard of 8-minute abs, man? I've got 7-minute abs, man. You know what I mean? When you're comparing this to like dextrose, it's just kind of like...
Yeah, the 18.21% is relatively low if you look at, how rapidly dextrose is already absorbed into the body, and are you cutting off a couple minutes?
Sure,
like
dextrose, maltodextrin, other carb sources. The biggest difference is those are going to be cheaper. Now the cool thing about these is they're flavored and they are supposed to taste good. I've never tasted them. We're going off feedback, which is obviously subjective. So if somebody wants to make themselves like a weight gainer where they maybe mix a vanilla protein powder and mix one of these in, because sometimes hard gainers just are picky or they have trouble with calories, somebody's trying to gain weight, you just want to throw your carbs in with your protein, that's fine. It's just a little more costly, so keep that in mind. So maybe you just want to throw this into a vanilla protein shake and make yourself, a fruit punch or, a lemon lime drink or something like that. You can do that, if it fits your budget and stuff like that. The thing with carbs is they're pretty ubiquitous in the diet. So, you could eat rice, you could eat, rice cakes and, all kinds of carbohydrate sources to find and find relatively cheap. But again, if you're having trouble eating enough calories to create that caloric surplus to gain weight, you could do something like this, or you can buy a weight gainer that has it already in there, or you can use, maltodextrin or dextrose. I wouldn't get caught up in the absorption rate of carbohydrates because in reality, they're affected by other things so that they're not going to absorb the way it's purported to be, and the same holds true with waxy maize.
Most oftentimes, you're not going to drink this by itself. The people are mixing it maybe as a post-workout shake. You're taking it with protein. So there you're altering the absorption rate or the glycemic index and absorption rate of this carbohydrate. Just like other post-workout supplements. I mean, some people may take it before a workout if you're looking to possibly increase your energy levels. But
you don't want to be in a hypocaloric state, anything like that. I mean, the idea is, I think, the highly branched structure of these carbohydrates makes easier access to the glucose subunits for the enzymes to get in at, and blah, blah, blah. It's just in reality that we wouldn't pay attention to that. We wouldn't judge it based on that. So bottom line is, if you want something that tastes good, that you can throw in with a protein powder because you're trying to gain weight, you're trying to make up your own post-workout, that's fine. Just if it fits your budget, I guess, is kind of how we would look at it. There are cheaper alternatives. I mean, that's really the bottom line. Just don't get caught up in the hyperbole of, the absorption and this and that, because there's just a lot out there. And that holds true for Vitargo, too. The studies that, people are saying, there's 3 studies. Well, they're also all sponsored by the company, and they're just not very realistic anyway. So let's not focus on that, because it's just not relevant. So I think that's really what it comes down to. So I think we hopefully answered your questions, because we get a lot of questions on this. I get it on a weekly basis, and kind of it's hard sometimes to type out those answers sometimes fast, when we get them on Facebook and all that stuff too. So that being said, we appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments section, or check us out at facebook.com/bestpricenutrition. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.